Chapter 3. Threads of the Unknown. Michael's apartment was a battleground of scattered papers, glowing screens, and unanswered questions. The files he had downloaded buzzed in his mind like a hive of angry bees. Project Nemesis, Subject Alexei, Phase 2 initiation. The pieces of the puzzle felt connected, but refused to align. The image of Alexei's face haunted him, a dark mirror of his own. Sleep was out of the question. The faint hum of the city outside only deepened his focus. Michael pored over the encrypted documents, his frustration mounting. Most of the files were gibberish, strings of code and redacted blocks that seemed designed to obscure the truth. Still, certain phrases kept surfacing: behavioral override, replication protocol, and control nodes. He paused at one phrase that appeared repeatedly: Genesis subjects. There was no explanation, only a list of ID codes. Michael scribbled the codes onto a notepad, determined to find a way to decipher them later. For now, he needed help. The first call Michael made was to Samira Patel, an old colleague from his days as an investigative journalist. She answered on the third ring, her voice groggy but alert. "Michael, it's been years," she said, her surprise tinged with suspicion. "I know. I wouldn't call if it wasn't important," Michael replied, glancing at the files open on his laptop. "I need your help. It's big, Samira. Dangerous." There was a pause. "All right. Meet me at the Blue Star Cafe. Noon." Michael sighed in relief. Samira was one of the few people he trusted, even after all these years. If anyone could help him navigate this labyrinth, it was her. The Blue Star Cafe was bustling, its worn leather booths and dim lighting a comforting reminder of simpler times. Samira sat at a corner table, her dark hair pulled back, her sharp eyes scanning the room. Michael slid into the seat across from her, clutching a folder stuffed with printouts. "You look like hell," she said, taking a sip of her coffee. "You should see the other guy," Michael replied with a weak smile. Samira raised an eyebrow. "Cut the small talk. What's going on?" Michael laid the folder on the table and opened it, spreading the documents between them. He explained everything: the murder accusation, the photograph of Elizabeth Rowe, the files he had stolen. Samira's expression hardened as she pieced it together. "This is huge," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You're saying someone made a clone of you?" "Not just me," Michael said, tapping the word Genesis on one of the documents. "There's more to this. I need to know who's behind it and why." Samira studied the papers, her journalist instincts kicking in. "All right, I'll help you. But this is bigger than either of us. We'll need to tread carefully." The first lead came from an unlikely place, a fragment of metadata buried in one of the files. Samira traced it to a defunct government contractor, Rotec, the same name Michael had seen at the industrial complex. The company had gone dark years ago, its assets sold off to various shell corporations. "Whoever's running this, they've buried it deep," Samira said, scrolling through the sparse information on her laptop. "But there's a name that keeps popping up: Evelyn Carmichael." Michael frowned. "Who is she?" Samira pulled up an article with Carmichael's photo. A severe woman with angular features and piercing gray eyes. "She's a top-tier geneticist, known for her work in behavioral psychology and neural interfaces. If Rotec's experiments survived, she'd be the one to oversee them." Michael stared at the screen, a chill running down his spine. "She's the key. How do we find her?" Samira hesitated. "That's the tricky part. She's not exactly public, but there's a rumor she'll be at a biotech summit next week. It's invite only, but if we can get in..." Michael nodded. "Then we make our move." That night, Michael returned to his apartment to find the door slightly ajar. His pulse quickened as he pushed it open, scanning the room. It had been ransacked. Papers were scattered, his laptop overturned. Whoever had been here wasn't subtle. A figure stepped from the shadows, the same man from the industrial complex. "You're persistent," the man said, his tone almost admiring. "But you're in over your head." Michael backed away, his hand instinctively reaching for a lamp on the nearby table. "Who are you?" The man stepped closer. Someone who's trying to keep you alive. Stop digging, and maybe you'll stay that way. Michael hurled the lamp, but the man dodged it effortlessly. Before Michael could react, the man lunged, pinning him against the wall. His strength was inhuman, his grip unyielding. Listen to me, the man growled. You don't know what you're dealing with. Carmichael isn't the only threat. There are others watching, waiting. You keep pushing, and you'll bring them all down on you. With a sudden shove, the man released him and disappeared into the night, leaving Michael gasping for breath. He stumbled to the overturned laptop, desperate to see what had been taken. The files were still there, but a single phrase had been left behind on the screen. Stop or die. Michael called Samira immediately. They know. They ransacked my place, left a warning. Then we're close to something, Samira said, her voice steady despite the tension. We need to move fast. If Carmichael's at that summit, we can't miss the chance to confront her. Michael nodded, though she couldn't see him. I'll be ready. As he hung up, Michael's eyes fell on the photograph of Elizabeth Rowe pinned to his wall. Her enigmatic smile seemed almost mocking now, a reminder of how far he still had to go. The threads of the unknown were tightening, pulling him toward a confrontation that felt both inevitable and terrifying. And Michael knew, whatever answers lay ahead, they would change everything.